Hey, so if there's anything that I find interesting that I want to kind of analyze, it's so this particular picture looked pretty different. So this came from the 2019 Church News article where they were talking about the death mask. And it just said it was the Maudslay's portrait. It didn't like give a call number to the church catalog or say that it was done by um, Carter. Whereas this other image that really looked, you can just watch my other video because I edited this specific one. You can pull up. There's this one. Let me take this away. This looks different. The eyebrows look a little bit different. I really think I am convinced this is the right side of his face. Because you can see, although you do see this line, it's not very good lighting. It's not a very good photo. The hair is a little bit more forward. But of course, he's definitely lost a ton of his hair. And just all of these, I think, really are good evidence that this was his hairline, you know, because when we go back to here and look at, so I uploaded a few versions of this, you can, see well, these are very similar, but I'm pulling up the photo of the death mask that I took, and I was messing around inverting these things, so I need to, okay, we'll take this. And I did a layer. Is the layer still there? There we go. Bring in the layer back. So this is something I was doing. I just sort of sketched the outline of the plaster, and this is the outline of the hairline on the death mask. And then I did the line of the death mask, and then I superimposed, so you could just see how different it is, besides just looking at. You just go, whoa. You can see the death mask was a lot. Possibly 1880s, 1890s. I don't know. That's Carter was big deal around the 1880s, right? So then you see how much more the death mask is showing, and that, oh, it got adjusted a little bit. So because I was moving things around a little bit. So let me, nope. What's it doing? Oh, I know what it's doing. It does that weird thing. Okay, it just does weird things. Yep, that's about right. Right there, it just got moved. Because I was trying to invert the other picture and it got frustrated. And so if you do layers and do a sketch, it doesn't consider this part of the image. You have to touch the image. This is the image. It does. So that's why a lot of times I would just still use Procreate, because I'm like, Photoshop's, I was messing around with Photoshop today and really kind of getting super, learning so much. I'll just say that. Just be positive. Just learning so much about Photoshop today. And does that still, so I was inverting the death mask and kind of messing around with it. So it's not lined up perfectly. Somehow that ended up smaller. Okay, so I got that selected. Yeah, it wasn't letting me invert just one of the layers, and I didn't take classes and all this, you guys, but in college I just didn't. It was all grit and doing artwork, hard copy artwork, nothing digital. Even though I knew that was, if I really wanted to make money with art, I needed to do that, but I did dance, art, and music in college, and then I became an esthetician and then became a CMA, basically. And so right now, I've had people sort of give me the side eye and be like, "What do you do for work?" Because someone was saying a bunch of stuff that wasn't true about my work down here where I'm at. And I was just like, it's really boring. That's probably why they don't understand, because I'm just not excited to be like, but I'm so grateful for it. It's just a really great company. So I'm not going to say the name of the company, but very tedious work, and it's the HEDIS project. I'll just say that. And um, yeah, they just every year they spend a huge pretty large chunk of the year doing this. It's basically like an audit. I don't want to explain any more about it, but I've been really grateful to be able to work with the people I've worked with and work with the same people since like 2019. It's just been really refreshing and nice to be like, okay, I know you, I know what what you want from me, and then I'll just do that. As opposed to when you start a brand new job, but you just don't know what's expected of you so much, right? And just the hair, it just won't. It's like literally people just won't even consider. I was in the church history library and just this guy, just the intensity when I showed him my photo and said, just told him what I was doing. I was so excited. I was excited to be there a week, and I was excited that our paper was already written and we'd already submitted it in 2021. So, of course, it was beginning of January last month that it finally was published, but we had submitted it to several places. I won't say where, but I knew like I wanted, of course, I wished that the whole provenance and artwork and all that was, I just wished it was a longer paper. And just it over the course of 2 more years, it just got smaller and smaller. And then it was just sort of like, well, maybe there could maybe be another paper. I don't know. So that's a possibility, right? Because there was so much more. It was like, no, this is focused. And a lot of academics a lot of times are very focused. So if they've decided we are focused on just analyzing your photo to the death mask, they're not going to get into all the, they're not going to talk about Elisha Bibbins. They're not going to go into Emma possibly knowing Elisha. They're not going to go into, and I knew all that. They told me that in 2019, right? Like, oh wow, you found all this. I found out so much more, and I would get excited, and it was just fun that Tegan would ask me a question, and I'd find it. I'd find an answer and so much more. And then that was what happened in Salt Lake City with this guy. He just really, yeah, it's not him with my photo. That's not him. Like, is it because you think the hair should be 3 inches above his head? Yes, that is Joseph's hair. You know, just so like wouldn't even consider, just like glaring at me too. Just like it's offensive to men to think that he could have lost some of his hair, but when you look at the death mask, he did. And so you see it's kind of thick. I can zoom in here and see it is sitting up a good thickness. It's not just barely grazing the top of his head and being brushed from he's not bald. This is not a bald man. This is a man who I think got his hair cut flush to the hairline. And so I think the hairline was right there. I think it was there in 1842. I could see the hairline being like right there when you really zoom in and look at some of Maudsley's work. It was there. And you can see his skin coming through there, and his ears are sticking out through his hair. So it works. That's one thing that's really, really interesting. So I'm just going to analyze something in real time here. So I'm showing you this. So I got the layers lined up because I was re-recorded the video like 4 or 5 times. Like I'll end up spending like 5 hours, but I'm also just talking out loud and finding out stuff. So making the videos just like I learned by doing a lot of the time. I mean, I do like to study and just read and look at things on my own, but when I'm talking out loud and you sort of have that pressure to like come up with something, it just makes me think faster, I think. I don't know. gets the blood flow going, right? Because I definitely have that. I have dysautonomia, so talking is calming, and yeah, it literally is like talking. They've proven that, so that's why a lot of times meditation will just make that sound, and breathing and all that is calming. Then it just kind of helps me to really focus on stuff. That was a little too much information there, but yeah, I do have a job, and I like it. I like the company I've been blessed to work with. It's just there's a part of the year where I don't have one, right? And so someone was really verbally abusing me and attacking me, and the spirit just kind of warned me, like, some men are going to attack you, and I'm being, I have an idea someone is being cryptic, that they're planning to, like, someone else, like, talk about me, basically, and just not being. I think they thought that I bought it, that they're really being nice to me and really are my friend, and I'm like, I know you're not my friend. I know you're never going to be. I know you don't care about me, so I've just been really kind of very short answer and distant, because I'm just like, I don't trust people. I try to, but I don't. And so there's probably be some negativity, but what can you do? So basically, you look at that and see this red that's about where the plaster is, but his hairline really goes back to here. But then looking at the eyebrows, like, I'm definitely, okay, yeah, I do want to take these away. This is pretty blown out. Like, this is just no detail up there. No, like, and then just harsh shadows. And this is by Carter. And then this one looks so different. I'm gonna take the layer away because it's just so off, because it's such a different angle. And just pulling up these different photos by, I think, the same man, by Carter, you can really learn about camera distortion angles. Like, I think this is a lower angle, whereas my photo, the death mask, I didn't bend down my knees to the level of the death mask, right? Whereas he did for this one. I'm convinced the lens was possibly level with the table that this is on. So it seems to be almost coming up, where, I don't know. And it really sort of takes a trained eye. But when you look at this, it looks kind of different than that other photo. I'm like, what is so different? You can really see the eyebrow hairs. You can see that scar. There is a scar that comes up right there on the right side of his face. And even though it's kind of a horrible photo, you can really see that the mask did capture his eyebrow hairs. There was likely a lot more detail back in the day before they really glossed it. And it was a double death mask, and then Canon got it. I don't know. I should know all this. Well, that what picture came from that article. Anyway, so I was messing around trying to see what I was wondering as I kept looking at. See, this is not showing you too much. There's just not a ton of detail. You can barely see the hairline, but you can tell. I mean, really, I'll do this again, pulling this back and looking at the hairline like this. You could look at this and conceivably think this is the death mask of this guy, looking at the hair. It's kind of thick right there. It's receded about to there. It looks like it's receded to the same distance back to there. Let's forget about the forward-facing painting that didn't even match the hairline or the details at all of all these features Maudsley painted of Joseph Smith 6 months earlier with less hair. He has less hair in Maudsley's painting 6 months before the forward-facing painting was done. Let's let go of this fantasy that he looked like Elvis. He didn't. And that's why I'm like, I think John Hammer's ancestor was saying that. Like, that, what? That's not Joseph. And Emma kept it in her bedroom. Like, maybe people laughed at it too. Like, maybe, like, yeah, right, Joe. Yeah, that's your hair. And they see him take his hat off and be like, yeah, that's not you. And maybe he was embarrassed by that he really made him look like he had a hairstyle he didn't have. That's what I believe he did. Although he did pop it up a little bit, according to some of the Maudslay's pictures. And some of Maudslay's, he did hide the receding hairline, and other ones he really made it raw, and you saw all these. He wasn't trying to make him look great. He was just showing him how he was. So that's what's great about Maudsley. Okay, so let's take that away and pull this. So this should, okay, yeah, that's on top of that. And bring that back. Make sure the background is still there. Which one do I got selected? So this is different. It looks very different than the other one. So this was this particular, so the other one that was sort of that reddish tone was found in the church catalog. And it was said this is a negative taken by Carter. So probably like 1880s, right? So maybe 40 years old is how old the death mask was. So Joseph Smith had lived, he would have been almost 80. He would have been 1885, he would have been 80 years old. Oh. So yeah, that was a big year. So maybe that's why Joseph Smith III was in Utah. It would have been like his father's 80th. Oh. That's interesting. That just dawned. That's fascinating to me. I know it sounds stupid to other people, but I just care about people. I like analyzing people, all that stuff. So I don't think the eyebrows look the same. You see a lot more details with this, but you don't. And this was from, I could tell it looked like the same type of plate, and it had the same markings. I actually edited this and put that, but you can look this up. It was in the 2019 church news. This particular picture, like June something. Anyway, you can find it on Google. But it wasn't from the church catalog. They just said it's the Dipple Death Mask. And so here is the left side of his face. Because it looks like his left eyebrow. But it does look a little bit different. I'm just kind of looking at some of these details. Like, do we see, usually we aren't seeing the scar pulling up the side of his face. And we don't see it because this side of his face just is a little bit more droopy. And then you do have, you look at this. Okay, was this damage from him? But that wouldn't have shown on his skin. So the death mask really got damaged right there. Then is this, what is all that? You know, there's plaster right up there. Was that always there? Because then this would be a huge discrepancy. So we could do another layer there. Because this is what I wonder. In my picture, it's the left side. So I'm theorizing maybe this is the left side of his face. Layer 2, is it going to pop it up right above it? Perfect. And oh, okay, good. Now I know how to, I'm like learning how to use Photoshop today. Because I accidentally hit a button and it took all the windows away, and I'm like, how do I get them back? Like I never used Photoshop. I was really going to get into photography, and then COVID hit, and I just got really sick and found out I had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and let's pull up that. Okay. So now we can select sort of this line. I mean, there's possibly hair right there, but and these photos are taken at such a different angle, but I could just sort of, you see, like you aren't really seeing the eyebrow hairs because you can't really see it that well. So I'm thinking this is the left side of his face. And the other one, maybe that's why they look different, because it's different sides of his face. You can see the mouth. You aren't seeing that scar right there. So even though it showed up in the church news oriented facing the right, they have often flipped the death mask in on the church's website. But since I know his scars on what side of the face is, and the one eyebrow you can see, the other one you can't, much of the eyebrows, like I think this is the eyebrow that you can really hardly see any of the eyebrow hairs. His nose. Well, I don't want to outline too much more. I mean, we know this is him. And there's just something that happened right there. So there's all this going on. Bring back the layers. No, we don't want to put that at 100%. And it's like, what happened here? So they line up super well, except for the eyes. But this is just a testament to camera distortion for sure. See, like that is eyelid crease right there. Crease. That's not lining up perfectly, but it could be camera distortion a little bit. So yeah, I'm convinced that this is a very old version of the double death mask, where you can see, I think a lot of details were lost and something weird happened. It's like, what is all this? So someone could look at this as the part that it matches all the way till here, right? When I sketch the hairline of the death mask and superimpose it, and I make it just a little bit larger and put it on my picture. But the curves and everything, even where it comes up and there's the strange bald spot right in the middle, then it goes over and it just sort of has a lot of strange stuff going on with his hair. But a lot chunks of his hair were falling out. Chunks of it were pulled out in 1832, didn't grow back, according to Levi Hancock. And something really happened to the death mask. So that was a big disappointment when I took really close pictures, and it was just like, oh, there's so much plaster, and just so much was edited after the original mask was made. So it just was a little concerning. So was this some extra plaster? Like, was this plaster that was added in the 80s, and this is plaster added in the 1880s, so it still looks as dark as this, but you know, that's an interesting theory. But this is an interesting point. So this is my theory now. I think this is the left side of his face, and you see his hairline is really, really, really going far backwards. When you pull up this one, take that one away. I mean, his hair is receded, but you see more of his hair coming forward. Because you do see the scar in this one. But it could be the lighting. Either way, both of these very old 1800s photos of the death mask really are a testament that he had a really, really receded hairline. And so I'll bring back the other. So I'll take this one away, bring these ones back. Bring that layer back. Bring the opacity back up on that one. There we go. So just today, you go there and you just really don't think that there doesn't seem to be much evidence from the death mask today that Joseph Smith could have at all looked like this man and had a little bit of a receded hairline, even though we all want to think he looked like Elvis. John Hammer's ancestor didn't think this looked like him. Emma didn't think this looked like him. Joseph said it. That looked like a silly boy. Like, what? This doesn't. Is that pretty good painting? I don't know. Doesn't look much like a prophet of the Lord. Look like I'm smirking. Just thought he needed to look like this. A little bit more serious. Not like he's about to laugh. And that's what a lot of people said from this. He just looks like he's about to, just not super serious. Looks like he's going to crack a joke. He's laughing because David Rogers was jumping around, according to William B. McCarl, in his 1885 account. Yeah, you can see on our website to see that. And he was just this great actor, is what he described him as. Joseph was depressed. He just was getting him laughing so he would look happier in the picture. Wanted to look happy. He's a happy guy. He didn't want to look sad. But apparently he did look sad that day, and he probably looked like this. Because I think he was really sad to a lot of people before he died. So the Stoddard, I can't remember his first name, kid that was, I think he was saying that. He was very emotional and crying a lot, and he's, just not himself. He wasn't okay the last little bit before he died. And then other people think, oh, you're just eating a million donuts and getting really fat, so your guy's too skinny. But like, I think his cheekbones are too high and too gaunt looking. Like, again, also, especially this one, you can see how it did sink in, and his cheekbones were very, very high. So, this is the hairline we see today. There's a bunch of plaster, but this is really what it was. And then there was that line. That's where the whole death mask ends today, but it had a lot more of the death mask before, and it really had a receding hairline. And yeah, I still think it's him. So I've talked to some other people too that analyze things totally differently that might do something too. And so we'll see. So yeah, I'm just sorry to those that are banking on the Larson Lockett image. But it's like, did you make any effort? Did you pay for that to get authenticated? Because Daniel Larson did. So, I mean, maybe they have a deal with him and they're making 50-50 or something. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry if that offended someone that I brought that up. I was just like, oh man. I just couldn't believe after a month it was just t-shirts for BYU with that man that I think is a Norwegian man that just was just a man who joined the church, and they're calling him Joseph Smith everywhere because, and just something else in the news. Madeline missing girl. This is in the news. Okay, here's to understand, like, they would never grab Michael Still or whatever his name is that is an FBI sketch artist. Like, he's just a cop that can draw. They aren't gonna grab him to do a facial analysis. A lot of people are doing like a facial analysis, and I won't even try. Like, I kind of looked because, I mean, I'm an artist. I kind of looked at this and was just looking at this picture and just trying to figure out, okay, looked at her eyes and I could see this one thing, and then people have done videos and there were just some unique features in her right eye, and this woman claims that she has that also in her eye, and she could maybe be Madeleine McCann, and she ended up in Poland. And but really they're gonna do DNA. This is an interesting thing in the news, but they wouldn't go grab Micah Still, but Tegan Lucas and Machi Henneberg, like if there was no DNA test, the DNA test will tell, right? But say that she disappeared or passed away and they can't do a DNA test, right? And they're just going by the photo. Like, literally, forensic anthropologists, Tegan Lucas and Machi Henneberg, have been recruited to maybe look at this woman's face and compare it to this child and see that there's not even remotely enough training with the person that analyzed the Larson Lockett photo. It was like a couple computer guys that I researched their education, like they had associate's degrees. They had their names on there. I don't remember what it was. I made an old video last summer. I'm not going to go into that again, but so that there were two different people, but none of them were doctors or scientists or anything close to what, you know, what we got here with this scientific paper in a peer-reviewed scientific paper declaring that that picture is likely depicts Joseph Smith. And we've spent 4 years going back and forth, and I've paid money. So you're criticizing me, who owns the picture and has all the rights to the picture, for just selling some of the photos. I started selling it to people that are my friends and do care about me. Where, you know, I think I've had maybe 4 people buy a $20 photo. You know, I haven't sold much. I'm not making, I haven't come close to getting the thousands of dollars back that I've spent just authenticating it, traveling, paying for the website each year. I count that too, because that's just help. It's my own choice though. I own it. I chose to do it, but it's, why not sell a copy of it? I believe it's him. I think people should have it and they should see his face. They should buy my picture. I printed up some more copies at Walmart that are smaller, and I'm going to sell those. So just because you criticize me, I'm just going to do it more. I'm just going to go ahead and, no, you didn't make me feel like I shouldn't sell copies of a photo I own, have the rights to, believe is Joseph Smith, and believe people should have in their home, and just see, just like what, you know, his lawyer said, his last lawyer said, you know, just by looking at his face, you could tell he was not a bad man. Um, and I believe that. I really believe that. So I think that's important. And not that the Larson Lockett image shows a bad man. I think that's possibly a man who just had his endowments taken out. I think that's why they deleted everything. I think, you know, there's just, it's a controversy. I probably shouldn't have pulled up Family Search. My mom was warning me. Just a little prophecy of my mom probably just being like, oh, if it shows that they had their work done and it, I shouldn't have mentioned that because there's people that don't want to hear anything about. He was alive though. Mads Madison was alive when he went through the Nauvoo temple and got his endowments taken out. And I keep saying I think he's a man of the photo. I don't know. It just could be, you know, all the brothers were deleted on Family Search. You know, I couldn't find any photos of her brothers anywhere last summer. So all we found was like a dot, you know, very pixelated, literally pixelated, meaning it literally is just black dots tracing his face in a 1970s book, you know, like it wasn't even very close at all to remotely high quality. It's the lowest pixelation you can get, you know, of Mads Madison. So anyway, I'm sure he was a good guy. I still keep saying I think he's Mads Madison, but I definitely think he's related to Bertha somehow, and he's not Joseph Smith. He just isn't at all. Um, this shows so much of the asymmetry of the injury of the left eye, that thicker eyebrow, just even the direction the hairs go and the uniqueness of that right eyebrow is amazing. And then you see this nose kind of goes like that, and you're seeing that sort of this crooked, broken nose, the hairline, it matches. Um, I can definitely see this side of the mouth is almost in a smile. There's that side just drooping down a little bit more. And he definitely, his bottom lip's not too thick. Church history person that was arguing in 2017, they're like, his lip is too thick, his eyebrows are too straight. Well, Benjamin Franklin Johnson didn't agree. So he said he had very straight eyebrows, and you see it in the artwork, his eyebrows were straight. Just one of the Maudslay's artwork, there's just a quick, you know, sketch, a very caricature picture. And that was one of the most popular pictures. I think that's why the Two Martyrs picture, the one that where he looks like his eyebrows are round. You can see that one over here. I had that pulled up earlier. I've remade this video a bunch of times, but it's the one where they show that Maudsley paints him with a jacket that has the, yeah, this one. Where his eyebrows do look pretty round. They don't look straight, but it shows the lapel and everything. But also, he definitely doesn't have a receding hairline art, whereas the rest of Maudsley's artwork, he's really showing him with a lot less hair than this. But this is still not that Elvis Buffon hair. It's still brushed forward and popped up. So I'm going to end the video here and hope you guys enjoy it. Just be nice. Please keep me in your prayers because it's just a lot of men are mad at me. And the Lord told me that. It's just, it would be nice if people cared and were nice or respectful. But a lot of people, most of the people that are loud and are talking to me or saying anything or reaching out are not being nice right now. They're really angry, but people have invested hours and hours creating sculptures and artwork and this is him and t-shirts of BYU of this man that I think is just some Norwegian man that's related to Bertha and is an ancestor of, yes, Locke Mackay and Daniel Larson. I don't think either of them are Mark Hoffman. I don't think it's fake. I think it's an authentic picture from back then. I just don't think it's Joseph Smith, and I really, really, really believe that this is, because all the clothing is his vest, his jacket's lapel, his bow tie, and how he ties it. The pop-down collar is also in the Pioneer Memorial Museum. His hairstyle, his hairline, his left eyebrow, his right eyebrow, his left eyelid, his right eyelid, his crooked nose, his crooked mouth where it comes up and the left side comes down, his very high cheekbones, his ears that stick out just like his sisters and his sons, and the background that looks like Emma Smith's picture, the carte de visite that looks like Emma Smith's carte de visite. So we know the family were copying old daguerreotypes in the 1860s. The fact that it was printed in Newark, Kendall County, Illinois, which is where Emma would have had to go through in order to get to Plano. And it's 10 miles away from where Joseph Smith III was. And J.S. Bibbins himself, who printed this, had to go through Plano to go check his mail and very likely had a photo card because Emma talked about photo cards. She talked about getting her negative copied. She knew J.S. Bibbins' father and she visited her sons in Plano and she would have gone through the train tracks because there's newspaper articles stating that Newark was covered and surrounded by train tracks. She just had to get to La Harpe, which really wasn't that far from Nauvoo, and then it would go the train. I followed the train. Like I just sat there for like an hour one day, just following the train tracks because I couldn't. For some reason I couldn't get it just to pull up the route of train routes. I'm probably stupid. I'm sure there was an easy way to do it, but it was fun to do. And there definitely are train tracks that go all the way to La Harpe, all the way up to Newark, and then then you get up to Plano. You just cross the Fox River and go to Plano. 10 miles away, really close. 1860s. He lived, the man who printed this lived for 16 years, 10 miles away from Joseph Smith III and inadvertently David Hiram and Alexander, because they both ended up there for some time. They didn't stay there as long as Joseph Smith III, but they were there. Joseph Smith III even visited Millington, or was outside of Millington, which is 2 miles away from Newark, and talked about all these cities south of there, and it just, his journals really place him in that vicinity in 1860 in October. Guys, all I've got to find is physically go over. I'll just go to Newark and just maybe I'll get a huge bonus and I can go travel out there. I almost drove up there. It would have been like 3 hours or something when I went to Missouri. That was more for fun, but I still considered that part of my research, but I found nothing because everything was closed. It initially was open and then everything was closed, but I still got to look at church history sites because our church was open, just not the other. Anyway, have a good day. Have a good night. Be nice.